What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Canon Connection. We're starting a little early today, but, just a couple of minutes. But, Jody, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, my friend. How about yourself?
Not bad, man. I got a busy day, so this is gonna be a little bit shorter of a show today, and it is what it is. Sorry, guys. That's the way it's got to be. Life gets in the way sometimes, and life is certainly getting in the way this time. So, what can you do?
All right.
Now, let's start off with the soapbox, buddy, because that's a popular segment. We like those things.
Where's Scott when you need him? Soapbox, man. All right. Well, Jay Clean and Dan Woolley will hear it from the beginning. So, morning, guys. Question, Ryan. When you and I have been in the sport long as we have, I've been in the sport 13 years. How long have you been in the sport?
20, I don't know, 26 years.
Right. So it gets to a point where you don't want to be in tournaments for long periods of time, right? And I understand over the years we've seen, events where they had 6 weight classes. I know a Travis Bajan event would have 3 weight classes. That was cool because it got Scott's here. Here it is. Yes, Scott, doing soapbox, by the way. So he's done 3 weight classes before, and I've been a part of that. Now, are you aware of the semi-pro division?
Yeah, because we really need that.
Now, here's my thinking. Why do we need it? And I'm not, and like you can.
You don't know why we need it, Jody? Because unfortunately, in North America, everyone needs to win a trophy.
Yeah. Here's the thing, man. So a semi-pro. Now you're going to find that only on the East Coast. Morning, Phil Woody. How are you doing? Scott's in the house. You're going to find that on the East Coast, right, of the United States. And do we really need a semi-pro? And I got some friends in 98%. You're aware of those guys, right? Yeah. Nothing against them, but they're one of the guys that have the semi-pro, divisions. I think the Florida Armwrestling League might have a semi-pro. But the thing is, though, is that do you really need that? Because what exactly is semi-pro? Because you already have when I was, in this sport earlier in my career, it was novice, open. Then some had amateur, open. And then some had novice, amateur, open. Now you got novice, amateur, semi-pro, pro. What in the fuck are we doing now?
Well, let's go one step further with this. You had an arm wrestler compete in the semi-pro divisions and take like 5 gold medals. So is semi-pro worth having? Is he just light years ahead of the amateurs? Or is he just knocking on the door of pros and should probably just pull that?
Well, I'll tell you what, when I first started arm wrestling in 2011, my first event was 2010, December, but my first sanctioned event was March of 2011, right? And by the time July came through that same year in 2011, that was the day I went from novice to open. Never looked back, right? When I got to a point where I was taking either first or second in these novice classes, okay, it's time for me to up my game. So I look at it as like, if you're crushing it, just go up, put your big boy pants on.
I don't understand. When I first went to the national championships, there was novice and there was open.
Mm-hmm.
I refused to do the novice. I thought I would rather get crushed in the pro division or in the open division than pull and try to be the best shitty guy in the tournament. I would not allow myself to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about semi-pro, it just adds to the confusion because in most of these tournaments, we can't even come up with a consistent answer where the threshold is from somebody pulling in an amateur event to a pro event. Sometimes it's they had to win that amateur event in that tournament. Other times it's like so many state or national or provincial titles. We can't come up with a consistent answer. The difference between amateur and pro, which, obviously there's the elite pro class where if you're going east versus west, you are pro, hands down.
Yeah.
Or even the high five, you are pro. You're getting paid to arm wrestle. You're off to do these things. It should be more clear now. In tournaments is where it becomes cloudy.
Right. Because I never understood that. Like, because now when you add a semi-pro, then it's like, okay, you got to add all those weight classes too to that division. So it's like, okay, is it a money grab for the organization or the director? Or is that the reason why your tournaments are 8-9 hours long?
It's ridiculous, man. You have, I don't know what the number is now because I have never taken the time to count. But at our nationals, and I know the world's is much, much more. Mm-hmm. Back when I ran them in 2010, there was something like 75 national titles given out because it was every weight class, right and left.
Right.
Men and women, then masters, grandmasters, ultra grandmasters, disabled, juniors. Like, it's just, I get the age classes. I have always believed that there should be less classes in arm wrestling, and that includes weight.
And yes, GB goes, why did Paul Italia pull in the amateur in some last? Yes, so over the weekend there was a tournament. I don't know if it was a Top Row Invitational, the Travis Beijing Invitational, whatever. It took place in West Virginia, and Paul was there just scooping up medals. It's like going, okay, amateur, semi-pro, and he'll pull multiple classes. It's like, he's on his way up. I will say that, but do you really need a semi-pro class? Because at that point, get rid of that, man up, and just say, look, once you start eliminating everybody in the amateur and just smacking at everybody, test yourself. Why not? I don't understand this semi-pro because then you got we all know, Ryan, and you and I know, and everybody in the chat knows, we've been in this sport long enough where some of those guys that sit there and fucking just, hide in these fucking amateur events just to get a fucking trophy to make themselves feel good.
Or win like 6 trophies. Win like 6 trophies because it's, like Paul Italia can pull. I'm only using him because somebody brought him up in the chat. He can pull right and left, multiple classes, take a shitload of, first place trophies home. Do any of those trophies mean anything in the grand scheme of things?
Well, I'll go a step further and say this, though. If you're pulling amateur, right, and then you pull semi-pro, aren't you pulling the same goddamn people anyway?
Yeah, pretty much.
And if you're not, then how many people are in semi-pro as opposed to amateur and open?
It's just so stupid. Like, what's the point? Try to encourage more people to arm wrestle? If you cannot keep somebody in the sport because they're not winning, because they're not willing to put in the work or try hard enough to progress, why are we catering to those people?
And yes, Jay Clean, Paulie did pull. So it's, like I said, I'm not knocking him, but it's like going, it's not Paul's fault for doing that. I mean, he didn't have to pull semi-pro, but if he did, I know the one before that he pulled semi-pro. But the thing is, though, is that you don't really, from an organization standpoint, I run a tournament once a year in June, right? My wife and I do. It's real simple. It's amateur, open, masters, ladies, end of. You know what I mean? We don't need this semi-pro because, like I said, and even at my event, and they know, oh, I'm pulling amateur. Get the fuck out. No, you're going up a class. You're not doing this dumb shit,
Dan, the answer to that is as quickly as possible. They should be. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen all the time. But you can't just stay an amateur. You should have an expiry date.
Right.
But there's also so many promotions that don't talk to each other. Like, I know of guys in Canada who have been pulling amateur for 20 years.
Is it because they pull once a year?
A couple times, yeah.
So how does that work? I mean, there's guys here in Oregon that pull once, maybe twice a year, and that's it. And it's like going, okay, but and it's like, if you're smacking everybody, you're still, if you pull one tournament once a year, or you pull 2 tournaments twice a year, but you're still taking top 3, it's time for you to, take out the pacifier, cut the cord, and fucking man up.
So I'll use Paul one more time.
Okay.
Because if he is good enough, and he is, to win like multiple trophies in multiple classes, he's good enough to pull the pro tournament in his own weight class.
Right.
And should be doing that.
See, Arm Wrestling Showcase gets it. Semi-pro equals promoter's way to make more money. It's diluting the sport. Exactly. So I'm just like going, not to mention, I just also added that it's going to stretch out the day. Like, I'm sorry, Ryan, but I don't want to be at no event for fucking 8-9 hours. I really don't.
That's why I talked to Billy when we were talking about the North versus South event. They were going to put the super matches at the end. I've been to these events where that happens. It is promotional disaster. You cannot sell a pay-per-view when somebody's waiting 8 hours for the pay-per-view to start, because we're at the mercy of another event finishing.
Well, here's the thing, and no amateurs, there's no cash prizes for them. If so, that's a catastrophe. But now, lately, have you noticed, Ryan, some tournaments will go, hey, let's do open first, because I'm going to use you as an example, Yeah, I'm a hater. Boy, I got my watermelon flavored haterade right here. Ryan, can I use you for an example?
Of course.
Okay. It would suck for Ryan Espy. Want to know why? Because if we go to a tournament, we all know by trade that it's going to be the amateur class first. And we also know it's going to go lightest to heaviest in that order. So if you're Ryan Espy and well, I'm pulling open, I'm in the supers, I am the last guy on deck, which means I'm going to sit here through this entire damn thing. However, the last couple of tournaments I've been through went open first, then amateur. Think about that. Open class, the last 2 tournaments I went to, the one in Utah went open class first, and then there was one in Myrtle Creek, Oregon. Open went first, then amateur. Because then, it's like, okay, hey, because seriously, man, like, do we got to sit through this whole thing? And it sucks if you're a super heavyweight because you go on last anyway. So I always thought if you went open first, that all the amateurs would be all psyched up and going, oh, man, I can't wait to see so-and-so pull. That would spark them to get all fired up for their once the amateur class is on. You know what I
mean? Yeah. Well, Dan Woodley, you are correct. WAF and IFA are considered amateur sport like the Olympics. But like the Olympics, sometimes the pros, the ones that can, will attend those world championships.
Did you get the memo,
James
by the way?
Clark, here is the issue. There's a lot of people that are good enough to win amateur but lose relatively easily in the pros. The split class is good for them to keep them motivated. Completely disagree. Losing should be your motivation to get better. If you're good enough to win the amateur and you're starting off by cracking the pros, there shouldn't be a graduated class of winning as you move up the ranks. You should be finishing last in the pros. And then the next time you get a little better and a little better and a little better. It took some of us years to progress up those, but the way the mentality is nowadays, I don't think that any of this should be catered to encouraging someone to stay in case they might lose and flip out and get out of here. And if their mindset is that weak, okay, go take up, pickleball or some shit.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid, It's like, here's the thing, especially in our sport where we know there's going to be a loser and we know there's going to be a winner. That's just the way it is. You're never going to be in this sport undefeated. That's you name every single person in this sport, they've taken a loss. I mean, everybody. And if they haven't, they ain't pulled long enough, or you only pulled one tournament to save your life. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
People can be very fickle about this. So
yes. And if you looked at the pros lately, you know, guys have gone on losing streaks. Why are they hanging around? Because they have a different mindset.
I'm on a losing streak, but I'm gonna end that shit next weekend. So sorry,
Yeah.
Billy Berg.
Billy's
But I'm
in
in that
trouble.
shit next weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Matt Mass on a losing streak. What happened? Went back to the lab, went to work. Derek Smith, East versus West, losing streak. What happened? Went to the lab, went back to work, got the win. So when you see people like that who are at an elite level, it goes to show you that those guys can struggle too. That, okay, well, if they can sit there and take some L's, take all the shit talking from all the naysayers, and then go back and go, okay, I'm gonna work harder. I'm gonna sit there and work on my flaws, fix that stuff, and then come back. Then you know what? Anybody else can do it also.
Hey, Jay Clean, fun fact. I have played pickleball. I actually have a pickleball racket.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
That's like a cross between ping pong and tennis, where it's like it's kind of like tennis, but it's a lot smaller. You don't have to cover as much ground. You know,
I think Derek Smith is probably the perfect example of what you're talking about, because he took some shit kickings, like he took some losses, some bad ones, and managed to come back and get a really good win. Matt, good example. My opinion, Derek's a better example, because Matt, I mean, I think I explained it last week when I picked Matt to win, because he was beating Ron when they were both in the same weight class at 225.
mm-hmm.
Now he's 40 pounds heavier, and Ron isn't.
And, you know, with the Derek thing, I mean, it seemed like that match between him and Tim Breslin seemed like 10 years ago. It seemed like 10 years ago. And in between there, Derek took a loss to Austin Jaggers, you know? So it was cool to see Derek win. It was cool to see guys who struggle win. I mean, Dave Chafee's been struggling lately. And I'm sure he just needs to take a break, rest, gather your thoughts, resurface, you know, when the time is right, and get it done, you know?
Yeah, on a big stage where the pressure is on.
Well, did you get the memo, Ryan? The post 2024 IFA World Championship, September 30th through October 6th, 2024 in Loutraki, Greece.
Yes, I did see that.
And I told my wife,
where is WAF next year? It's in Africa,
Ghana.
isn't it? Yeah.
Ghana. Yep. I mean, let's be real. Ghana, Greece, you know, that's a no-brainer. So,
man, not for me. Like, I actually struggle with that. That if it was just on location, because, you know, I've never been to Africa.
I've never have either, but I'm thinking, when I told my wife, I said, look, babe, IFA is going to be in Greece. And she's like, we're in. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, there you go.
Done. I was like,
you're done thinking about it.
Yeah, so there you go. So I got, which means I got to finish out my my schedule this year, my commitments, and then once Washington State's all said and done December, I'm gonna head into the new year and go, okay, the road to Greece begins, because first things first. Where is Canadian Nationals next year for you guys?
Why am I having trouble? Quebec City, but not Quebec City. Gatineau. Close to there. Yeah.
Because the IFA Nationals will be in Dayton, Ohio, so in April. So 6th and 7th, I believe, that weekend. So that will be hurdle number 1. So see, Steve,
but here's the deal. How am I supposed to qualify? Here was the attitude from last year's Nationals. Despite doing everything I needed to do to qualify and move up to the national championships, there was an opinion expressed to me that I should not be pulling at the national championships. You know, because
based on what?
somebody said, well, Devin should not be there. And someone else said, well, you shouldn't be there either. Well, I said, well, my intention was to go on to the World Championship. How do I do that without going through my nationals? And, historically, that's how it's worked. I understand that we're neutral now, so we don't typically qualify people based on their finishing at the nationals. But it sure does build a better case if you're going to try to take someone's spot that you would have placed ahead of them at the national championship.
Devin, and I'm going to say this. This is where I'm going to get hate right here, okay? So
careful, buddy, because it comes in waves.
With Devin, he doesn't need to go to nationals. You want to know why? Because going to the WAF Worlds or IFA Worlds, that's not on his agenda. He's on a different rocket ship because he wants to be the number one guy in the world. There's two ways to get there. There's I'm going to go to the World Championship route, or I want to go beat the best guys on the planet route to become the number one guy. Okay? So Devin offered, he wanted to go that way. Hey, I'm going to fight these big monsters, and those same guys he's pulling really don't compete at WAP anymore, unless you're Sanders. But I don't see Levon pulling at WAF anymore. I don't see Gennady pulling at WAF anymore. It's guys like Ungerbayev. It's guys like maybe Orakli. Just for it's guys like Sanders, because for them, those guys I just mentioned, it means something to them. I don't recall the last time Devin pulled a WAF. The only WAF Worlds I even knew Devin pulled in was the one in what was it, Tokyo?
There was two, one in Japan, one in Finland, I believe.
Okay, Japan, where he took third to John Brzezinski and Ron Bath. That's the only Worlds I know. That picture with him on the podium is like circulating somewhere. But that's the only one I know of. But, Devin decided to go a different route because it was like, okay, there's PAL. Okay, let me put my name in the hat there, So it all depends on what I don't understand why, someone would tell you, Ryan, or have an opinion about, well, you shouldn't pull. I mean, based on what, though? If you want to go to a World Championships, that was the avenue you took. That's just how it was. It's always been that way.
That was my plan.
Right.
But the plan obviously changed, and, things went off the rails a little bit there for a while.
See what Jay Clean said? The one in Japan was the only time John's won a WAF World too. Exactly. So, man, it's not like John went there every year. But see, we all know John is the man anyway.
But John won Petaluma.
Yeah.
He won Over the Top. Like, he won all these other ones. Jason, the problem is there are things that would prevent that. Anyway, John actually won a left-handed title in Japan.
Yeah.
Because the deal was that you got to pull in this big cash tournament if you competed at WAF. So a bunch of the guys went over there and pulled left-handed in order to get into this cash event. Yeah. I don't remember all the details of it, but I remember that.
Yes, good morning, Russ. And hey, you want to highlight that comment? Yesterday, I found out Svetan won WAF gold medals 5 times in a row between 2000 and 2004. Yeah, I mean, we're talking in back in those days, though, it meant something to win a world championship. It meant something. Now it's kind of maybe because some of the bigger guys now are kind of doing all the big elite tournaments now, but it seemed like Kazakhstan's just dominating the whole WAF scene these days. So, but you still guys got like Krasimir, who just pulled King of Table. He went to WAF Worlds and pretty damn good this year. Once again.
Yeah, no, they are, and they're anomalies. I'll be honest, like it's unreal what they're doing by going back to WAF.
Yeah. But it comes down to what is in store for the puller, because this is where you and I talked about this. I think it was last week. And I was going to say, hey, 2024, everything's up in the air. And I remember I sat down and had a talk with my wife, and I'm like, dang, I got this event and that event and this event. And then she had sat there and told me, she goes, you don't have to go to every event, Like, yeah, you're right. It's kind of hard when you try to set your mind on this, and then you got someone saying, hey, guess what? We got this event coming up. We'll do A, B, and C for you. But I've always, this time of year, late September, early October, is where I get I need to be at a world championship, because I see some of my countrymen go over there and compete. And it's like, dang, I need to get over there. But for me to do that, I have to negate all the other tournaments and just focus on the route that gets me there. So,
yeah. Well, what do you want to talk about next, Joe? Do you want to go reverse order here, and then we can focus on King of the Table to close the show?
Yeah, because that was like the longest soapbox. Boy, that was the longest soapbox ever. Damn.
Let's talk about the Knuckles Up announcement.
Yes, sir. What you got?
January the 6th. Knuckles Up 2. That came out. So originally it was going to be December. Now it's January. So we have that to look forward to as an alternative to Jay Clean. As an alternative to the other pro leagues. I'm curious what's going to happen with Knuckles Up. I mean, the first event they ran was awesome. Since then, some of those arm wrestlers have been over to, or will be over at East versus West. Camille apparently already had it booked, but he's going to go. Camille Jablonski's got a match at East versus West coming up. You probably see a few more of those guys head over there. I'm curious what the dynamic will be with contracts and all that stuff. But regardless of that, we have their announcement that the second version of their show is going to be on pretty soon.
Now, are you allowed to talk about anything else beyond that?
I don't really know if I have any information beyond that.
Like, if they offered you, say, hey, Ryan, guess what? We'd love to have you come back there. Would you say yay or nay?
I'm pretty sure I would say yay. Yeah.
Because let's be real. You even told me to a point where if they offered you, you say yes, end of. So.
Yeah. I mean, I am fairly certain that it'd be an automatic yes all around. Like, that's one I wouldn't really even have to talk to my wife about, because she knows how good we were treated the last time,
Right.
Normally, whenever I get one of those offers, I run it past my family, my wife, and she weighs in on it and gives me her opinion. But I don't think she would have any issue with me just saying an automatic yes. Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I mean, you said January 6th?
January 6th.
Okay. Well, I guess we keep our eyes.
Jody.
Sir.
Maybe we ring in the new year in Times Square and then head over to Knuckles Up 2.
Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, but I mean, you have a clear advantage because you've been there before. So, yeah, you could probably, do that one more time, So, now
then we got North versus South. We got to touch on North versus South because it's in just under 2 weeks.
It's next weekend.
Yeah. So we got one more show between now and then.
Right.
But then we're together here in Canada.
Can you imagine, for the first time ever, road trip for the Can Connection?
Yep.
Both of us in the same screen.
That's right.
So that's going to be exciting. And we'll have a lot more to say about that next show, because I'm telling you right now, Billy Berg, I love you, man, but a little hungry, man. I got to get off this losing streak. So
Billy's in trouble. So is Cody.
Ooh.
Now that you told me how to beat him.
I'm surprised. I guarantee you, dollars or donuts, Cody will be in the chat next Tuesday.
Think so?
there's no way he wouldn't. I mean, it's the last show before the event, so why wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, Cody will be around. He might be watching right now.
Might be lying in the weeds, But yeah, we'll have a lot more to speak on that. But let's talk about the elephant in the room.
What's the elephant in the room?
That would be this past weekend's. There was some surprising matches where I didn't get the pay-per-view because you and I talked about what's been going on before we went live. But I'll tell you that I didn't get it, but when I saw the results, I was like, okay,
I was chatting with Neil a little bit this morning, actually, and we're talking about, it's funny how we take these tidbits of data and we try to formulate an opinion on who's going to win. So, for example, I see Chance Shaw, what he does at Knuckles Up. Sabin looks really dominant, has a great performance. And then you got Matt Mask versus Sergey at the past event that we just had in Canada. And Sergey looked good, but Matt also looked really good and strong against him.
Yeah.
And it made Sergey's performance look doubtful to me in my eyes going up against Chance Shaw. So I had Chance as the clear winner for a prediction, and I could not have been more wrong about that.
Here it is. I felt like should we go match by match, because I was going to go straight to John, but I was going to tell people why I thought he would win and that kind of stuff. But we can say that one for last. But I am shocked the way Chance lost. It was 4-2, correct?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact score, but yeah.
I believe it was 4-2. I'm shocked the way it happened, because I don't know about you guys, but how much do you guys, when y'all see the press conferences, do you formulate an opinion based off the press conference?
No. Sometimes. If somebody's mental state is like, you can tell they're beaten, like most guys when they're going against Devin, for example, he has this effect on them. Like when I saw the most obvious example of this is when Devin gripped up with Wagner the day before, and you knew who was winning that match based on that, which was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. And you also, in the opposite, you also saw that happen when he gripped up with Denis Saplenkov, and you knew who was going to win that match.
Like, why do people do that?
Don't know. Well, I know why. I know why the guy that's trying to get the advantage does it.
Because it's like really, do you have to do all that? Say if you don't want to give away any of your inkling to your opponent. Now, I don't give a damn. I'm gonna roll up there Friday, Manitoba, Canada. What's up, Billy? And I'll shake his hand because our match is left-handed. Hey, you want to grip up?
Don't even shake his hand. Just give him the fist bump.
What's up, dude? I might give him a limp noodle one, but it's whatever. But yeah, why would you sit there and do that? But usually when you hear somebody talk, they sound real confident. I'll say that because when Jerry had the press conference the day before he pulled Gasparini, that press conference, the way he was acting was a lot different than when he pulled Georgie or we did Gennady. It was just weird to me. The vibe I got from him was like, okay, he's not mentally there yet. I was rooting for him, but I just didn't think he was mentally there. Granted, he had a couple travel issues. You and I know that, Ryan, about traveling across the ocean, about how things can get all, screwy there. But it just seemed like he was not like, I don't know about this. Chance felt confident. I thought he was going to be confident, and then it came out the way it did,
Yeah. If I was going off the press conference, I would have said, I still would have stuck with my prediction.
But I tell you what, that Krasimir, was that true that he waited at 2:15?
I don't know, but I will tell you this. In my opinion, when somebody is a natural athlete, which I don't think any of us doubt, that Krasimir is a natural athlete, you can have a way more predictable energy level and performance when you are maintaining a baseline of your habits and all the stuff you're doing to prepare.
Right.
It can be an advantage when you're going into this kind of a scenario. And Krasimir has been here 100 times. And super impressive. Let's face it, when we've seen Krasimir take some losses in the last little while, it's been against guys that were way bigger than him.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that Lachlan outweighed him by a lot, but frame-wise, not tremendously bigger.
It looked like, and this is where Krasi coming off WAF Worlds, so he's already in like tip-top athletic shape. Lachlan looked like someone stuck a bike pump in his ear and just went like this. That guy was like blown up. I'm like, damn, that boy's thick,
Yeah.
But see, Jason Till, half the guys competing seeing the gas out after round one.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, Jason. Yeah.
And what was the final score? Was it 5-1, I think, that Lachlan lost? But I can't wait till the actual footage comes out because there's still frames of it. Then there's like YouTube shorts of some of that stuff. But I'm telling you, like, it seemed, and maybe it's one of those things where bigger is not always better.
I think this came down to a matter of Krasimir knowing the lane. Like, he clearly knew his opponent.
Mm-hmm. But the one match I didn't, Heather Morris, and I guess it was the flopper Lars, and I guess he was looking good too, in good shape also.
Well, Lars came in, considerably smaller athlete. Hedda Morris having an open top roll, holding that flop wrist press. Man, look, it was good. Surprising. I got this pick wrong.
Well, I tell you what, it goes to show you when you have these matches and then the outcomes, come and go, you kind of sit there and go, okay, so now where do we go? You know what I mean? Like, what happens now? Because I'm telling you, man, what happens now? Is Lars going to get invited back now? Will we see him on the East vs. West card? Because I'm telling you right now, I got the card for the next one right now, and I'm telling you what, it's a humdinger. Yes.
Yep. Well, you want to move into Matt Mask and Ron Bath.
I feel bad the way Ron lost. Like, whoa, like shit. I didn't think that was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to be that one-sided.
Well, in fairness, you take Ron Bath, who essentially is the same arm wrestler from World Arm Wrestling League days, versus Matt Mask, who is not the same arm wrestler from World Arm Wrestling League days. He's considerably bigger and stronger.
Right.
Yeah. So just based on that, how do you give it to Ron when Matt was beating him back then?
It's one of those things where I did something and I should know better by doing this, but I did it anyway, where when Chance pulled Ron and Chance went up 2-0, but Ron figured it out and won the last three. And it seemed like Ron would have been better had it gone to straps. Yeah. I was kind of basing it off of that. And it didn't dawn on me to use what you said, the wall, like, oh, yeah, well, fucking, back then in wall, this is what it was. Why would it change now? Because I always think, at some point it's going to change, right? Now, we talked about before how some people can lose a match, but their stock can still rise, right? So when Matt lost to Sergey, it was the way he lost, because seriously, I mean, anybody who pulls a 6-round match or a race to 4 and you're down 3-0, mentally you might be done. But the fact that Matt came back and won 3 straight to force a silver bullet, that's when all of a sudden his stock started to rise again. And I think, you know, using that momentum going into this one, because after that match, shortly after that, not too long after that, Matt got on his YouTube and says, hey, guess what, guys? I got Ron Bath at King of the Table. He has another guy coming up at November at East First West, and then he has Wagner in January. So I'm thinking, all right, he didn't fucking, you know, it's time to run a gauntlet. So I'm glad Matt won. Again, I like stories where people struggle and then they find a way to, you know, break out of that and get off the slump, right? I like that. Good for Matt.
Then you got the main event, as predicted.
Well, here's why. And this is what I was going to say earlier. Reason why I predicted Todd to beat John, one, because, you know, there's a difference when you pull somebody and you guys were training partners for years and years. You kind of know and have an idea what goes on. And I just thought Todd was just going to go right into that shoulder. You know, I honestly thought also that John was just coming off a match prior to that, which I don't think he got enough rest time, you know. Or maybe, and let's see if you agree, Ryan. Let's see if the chat agrees. Maybe, I'm not saying John laid down for Todd, but I'm not going to give him my all because I know I got Alexei just around the corner.
No, I don't know. That's big speculation, but
because I believe John was up 3-0 at one point. And then tried to go into a hook and was like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't do this, you know.
I don't know. I think, yeah, I kind of agree with the comment that just got posted that he could have won 6-0 if he wanted to. I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just domination. So it's like, okay, they always say never, you know, count out the GOAT, never bet against them. You know, yeah, I get all that. And it is to be true. I mean, I just thought that, you know, his match with Tadzilla was a little different, you know. But nonetheless, he got the victory. He got his revenge after, what, 2 decades long or whatever?
Yeah.
So, but I tell you, I'm going to have to get the pay-per-view in November, East First West, because the card's already out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. You saw the match card, right?
No, I haven't yet, but we'll talk about it next week, buddy, because I got to go.
Yeah, I forgot you got to go. I was about to just run through the matches right quick. Not predict, but just run through the matches. So, but you got to roll. I get it. Life gets in the way. Short segment, everybody. Sorry, the soapbox took about 25 minutes, but I had to get it out there, you know, like semi-pro, come on. So
that is perfect. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week where we will talk all the things North versus South.
Take care, everybody.